Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering creativity. I'm Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Allyssa Jones, who serves as the founder of Rising Tide Music. Alyssa, welcome to the show.
Hello, Aaron. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I am so excited to talk to you. Obviously, this is so an exciting episode, co-curated with our wonderful partner, Asta, who's been a fantastic creative partner for the show. And not only that, separate from that, Sphinx has had wonderful partnerships with Asta over the years, which is so great. And obviously, so many of their members. And of course, you also have a history with Sphinx and Sphinx
Yes.
Tank with Rising Tide. And so I'm just really, really excited to talk with you because the work that you do and literal contributions that you're bringing to our field are so critically important. So I thought the first would be great to just, if you could share with our audience, Rising Tide Music Press. What is it? What's encompassed in it? And why is it important?
So Aaron, we started as a kind of a project inside my kind of world of music making. I had, Jones Creative, and I said, we need this. I had been working with my dear friend Rob Deemer with the Institute for Composer Diversity as part of one of his initial boards, and I just kind of noticed that we were really focusing on those established composers, and which is great, but where was a pathway for those of us from whatever our credentials, age, range, experiences that are trying to contribute to the canon? And so I started this project, gathered some friends, and we had our first call in this January of 2021. Wow. January of 2021.
Right.
Oh, wow. And I think just before is when I applied for Sphinx Tank. So our launch happened in February of that year. And we started with 9 composers, including myself. And we set a limit. You have to have no more than 10 years of professional credit as a composer, however you define that. And so I aged out in the first month. But that was on purpose. I wanted to just kind of
Right.
make a space for other folks. So that's how we started. And since then, we've kind of turned hard into the K-12 space.
Awesome, awesome. And so currently what's the breadth? And what is the best way for anyone in our audience to be able to find you?
Well, so we have our catalog now has, we went from a huge catalog of aspirational works, I would like to say, right? So works for professional ensembles and collegiate ensembles. So in June, we shut that down and have made a hard shift into the K-12 space. And so we're growing that catalog by leaps and bounds through partnerships like New Canon Project. And so right now we have um, probably six or so strings works, the same amount of choral works from NCP, and then our collaboration with Castle of Our Skins has a whole other library. And so we're just going to keep building and building. And the best way to find us is to go to risingtidearts.org. The press has moved into that nonprofit space and is now, the aim of it is to kind of put out into the world anything that's been created as part of a program or partnership.
Ooh, I love that. Love that. Absolutely. And especially just the aspects of partnerships. And of course, that brings in ESSA and the New Canon Project, which I'd love to talk about as well, because partnerships, going back to the inception of Sphinx decades ago, the idea that the way to actually create impact is through dynamic partnerships that really are true partnerships. And before just we talk about New Canon Project, I was just going to ask you about, as a leader, how do you think about partnerships or how do you approach them, right? There's so many in our audience who have maybe experienced some successful or potentially unsuccessful
Mm.
partnerships. And so just wondering as a leader, do you have any approaches when you are thinking about partnering?
Well, so in my growth as a leader, I've learned to listen better to the ask, to the conversation. So if someone approaches me to kind of start a partnership, I'm really listening to what are they really asking for? What's my role really going to be? What's our organization's role really going to be? And to be clear up front, right? What is our capacity? What is our mission? Do they really align? Is this a box check or is this just two friends giggling over something cool that's actually not really probably should do it? And then when I'm looking for partners, it's kind of the same thing. It's what am I bringing to the table so that it's value added? So I'm not just going to someone hat in hand and saying I want to do this thing, and I know I don't have the capacity. What can you do to help scale or help resource this idea I have? It's, well, I'm having this idea. What ideas are you having? Is there a space where we can Venn diagram these and come up with something that people actually need?
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And I think great guidance for all of us as we try and collaborate with others for sure. So the new Canon project, can you share a little
Yes.
more about that for sure?
Yes. So Lynn Tuttle came to me with an idea that she and Robin Hilger from American String Teachers, no, American Choral Directors Association. Oh my goodness. They came and they said, "Hey, we want to do this thing. And would you be the publishing partner? And moreover, we would like for there to be a professional development component." And I knew Lynn a little bit from other work tangentially. And I hadn't met Robin yet, but I am a card carrying member of ACDA, so I knew of her. And so when we sat and we talked, I immediately said yes, because we were missing that pedagogical piece in our catalog. And it was painful for me being a career educator, right? And so I kind of hopped on the bandwagon. And since then, we're now in our second cohort. So we have 12, 13 composers that are now working with their mentors and soon school partners on new works designed for grade 1.5 to 3. We're looking for ensemble. So we're really intentional about that. We're not looking for your festival works, your competition works, none of that. This has got to be pedagogically sound. So the composers are getting workshops, and that mentorship is around ensuring that either their compositional ideas have some, lovely quality and that they're being expressed well, or that they're writing in a way that will grow young players and singers.
Wow, that is absolutely awesome. And as you go about and went about kind of the curation of composers, I know we have many composers who tune into the show and who are often like, I'm trying to find opportunities, etc. Wondering any suggestions you have for them in terms of criteria that kind of, drove your curation of that, and any thoughts you would have for especially composers watching.
Well, I think so. I think the beauty of our call process is it really is y'all come. So we're not filtering for anything but how you might identify yourself, right? So if you identify yourself as Black or Latin, then that's really the only thing. And then the other bit is, at least for our project, if you're coming in as a choral composer, really do have two choral works as opposed to trying to straddle both and take your chances and see which one they'll like better. We really do need to see two examples, and I think that's from my work in other places. That's a big bit of advice. If you're applying for something, follow the directions. And it sounds silly, but even if it's about masking your name, because there are several people we had to not even look at their applications because they forgot to mask their name and whatnot. So I think that's it. But in terms of how to qualify, if you write things for choir and strings, then you should apply whenever we post that next cohort.
Awesome. Awesome. Absolutely great. And this work that you do is so critically important. And especially ensuring, and especially this aspect, right, that young people are able to experience the and bring forth the creativity of the full spectrum of our society and not a sliver. And just wondering, a lot of people who work in this space are um, feeling unsure of
Mm.
where we're at and where things are headed. And I'm just curious, as one of the leaders in this space, are you thinking about that? And do you have any suggestions or thoughts to share with others who are doing this critical work?
Absolutely. In fact, you're asking this at exactly the right time. I am engaged at this exact moment, a literal shelf read of all of the buckets that I have my hand in, right? Because I think that one of the characteristics of those of us in this work is that we're going to put, anytime there's a leak in the dam, we're going to rush to put a finger or a toe or whatever, even if we're already spread out, right? So we're laying against the wall like this. And so what I'm trying to do is figure out, well, so how can I let go of some of those holes so that other people can fill them? I'm assuming that no one's going to come and fill that, right? I need to get that out of my head, right? That if I don't, no one will, because no one cares about us. And it's not about ego that I'm the only one that can. It's I'm pretty sure evidence proves in my mind that nobody cares about us. So those of us that have some capacity have to do all of it as much as we can. And I think if we let go a little bit, that'll make some space for some other people to actually see that there's a problem. If we're covering all the issues,
Oh,
just those couple of us, then the people who could come and be the next generation or are looking for an opportunity to make a shift in their focus, if they can't see that something's broken because we're covering it, then they're not going to know it's broken. And so I'm trying to get rid of things, trying to let go of some things so that I can really do a good job, right? I can
awesome.
finally maybe keep up,
Absolutely.
right?
Awesome. Awesome. So unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but I always
No.
like to ask of all my guests, this work obviously so rewarding and having so much impact, but there's got to be tough days and days where it feels like, obstacles can't be overcome. Wondering just as a leader, any mechanisms that you utilize that might help others who are watching who face sometimes those obstacles or challenges?
uh, I have to go off into the wilderness by myself every day. And I know that's a luxury, that not everyone can do that. But even if it's just 15 minutes of drive in your car with no music on, no sound, on a quiet road, if it's you don't have an hour for the gym, just go for 10 minutes. Just do something to reconnect with your body so that your mind can relax. If that's the only way I make it. Um, and I find that when I'm particularly stressed, sometimes I take too much time for myself. So there's that balance as well. But really, without that quiet space, I don't know how effective I would be, honestly. So that's my advice, and I get that from other people. It's about balance. It's that conversation we're always having about balance.
Allyssa Jones, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for everything you do, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Erin.